Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's absolutely crucial for how modern technology operates, yet often flies under the radar: the intricate world of service account security and management. These aren't your typical user accounts, they're more like the invisible, automated forces, the digital workers behind almost everything we do online. Our mission today is really to pull back the curtain on these non human identities. We'll be using a comprehensive guide as our map, basically extracting the most important insights and practical wisdom to help you truly understand how to keep these automated systems secure. The core challenge, as you'll discover, is finding that delicate balance between, ironclad security and the absolute necessity for these systems to run continuously without a hitch.
And that balance is precisely why this deep dive is so vital. I mean, imagine the internet as this vast, complex city. These non-human identities are the unseen infrastructure. They're the power lines, the water pipes, the transport systems that keep everything running smoothly. They are, quite literally, the backbone of automated IT operations. And because they're not human, well, they demand a completely different specialized approach to management and security. If we don't get this right, the entire city could, go dark.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we dive into the deep end of security, what exactly are non human identities in this context? Can you maybe paint a clearer picture for us?
Certainly, yeah. At their core, non-human identities are things like automated processes, specialized service accounts, and the digital pathways that enable machine-to-machine communications. Think of them as software robots, just tirelessly carrying out tasks without direct human oversight.
Yeah.
They're indispensable. They're the silent engineers keeping the lights on, from processing your online payments to ensuring your cloud apps can talk to each other. The incredible challenge, though, lies in maintaining ironclad security for these powerful automated entities while ensuring they operate continuously without interruption. It's a real high-wire act of security and reliability.
Right. So if you've ever used a mobile app, streamed a movie, or seen an automatic software update kick in, you've indirectly relied on these non human identities. Understanding how to manage them securely isn't just for IT pros, it's really critical for anyone who wants to be truly well informed about the hidden mechanics of modern organizations. Now, let's talk about managing these identities from their very first breath, sort of, to their retirement. The guide calls this service account lifecycle management. What are the crucial initial steps? How do we get these digital workers set up correctly?
Okay, so the journey kicks off with what's called automated provisioning and deprovisioning. This is really about implementing smart automated workflows for creating and removing service accounts based on approved requests. The why here is crucial. Automation helps remove human error. Key details involve standardized naming conventions. I mean, imagine trying to find one worker in a huge company if everyone had a random name. It also includes correct attribute assignment and configuring their initial access right from day one. It's all about setting them up for success securely right from the get-go.
And once they're up and running, permissions have this tendency to creep over time, don't they? They just accumulate. How does the guide suggest preventing that really common problem, making sure that permissions stay accurate?
Ah, yes, privilege creep. That's where access certification processes become absolutely non-negotiable. These are regular mandatory reviews of service account permissions and their access patterns. The goal is simple. Ensure they constantly align with current business needs and, really importantly, security policies. And it's not just a manual tick box thing. It should include automated reporting, clear reviewer assignment, and thorough attestation tracking. Think of attestation tracking as keeping this bulletproof audit log, who reviewed the permissions when they did it and what they explicitly signed off on. It creates a clear chain of accountability, making sure those permissions don't just silently build up.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The digital world is constantly changing, right? Systems get updated, needs evolve. What happens then? How do we make sure these non-human identities adapt seamlessly without creating new security holes or, maybe worse, causing everything to just grind to a halt?
Yeah, that's a critical point. It's handled through rigorous change management integration. This means coordinating any service account changes with the broader enterprise change management processes, so it ensures every modification is properly approved, documented, and implemented, often after being carefully tested. And crucially, this whole process relies heavily on dependency tracking. This is where we maintain a detailed map of a service account's connections across all applications, databases, networks, other resources. This information isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely vital. It's key for effective change impact analysis and risk assessment. It lets organizations predict and hopefully prevent disruptions, avoiding that nightmare scenario where one small tweak cascades into a massive outage.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those rare but really critical moments, when the system's in distress or maybe under attack? What about emergency access? We can't just be locked out, can we?
Absolutely not. No, for those extreme situations, you define and implement emergency access protocols. This specifically includes what are known as break glass procedures. These are highly controlled, kind of last resort methods for emergency access to service accounts when the normal routes are unavailable or maybe compromised. They're designed to be auditable and used only in a genuine crisis, like literally breaking the glass on a fire alarm.
Right, the break glass scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've seen how service accounts are born and how their permissions are managed over time. But now let's talk about the absolute bedrock of their security. How do we make sure these invisible workers are always operating with maximum protection? What's the core principle when it comes to giving these accounts only the access they absolutely need?
The foundational, really non-negotiable principle here is least privilege enforcement. The insight isn't just about limiting access, it's fundamentally about minimizing the blast radius if an account ever gets compromised. Think about it. Every unnecessary permission is like an open back door, allowing a breach to spread far wider than it ever should. It's about rigorous prevention of potential harm, not just enabling what's necessary. So this means service accounts operate with the absolute minimum permissions required for their specific function. It involves regular permission reviews and the automatic revocation of unused rights, leading to really granular access control.
And granular access control, that sounds technical, but it's essentially about being incredibly precise with permissions, right? Not just read all files, but read only this type of file in this specific folder. So what does this all mean for dynamic access, adapting to real-time needs? We're not talking about static set it and forget it permissions anymore, are we?
You're absolutely right. We're far beyond static permissions now. This is where concepts like just-in-time privilege elevation come into play. Think of it like a temporary key card, maybe. A service account gets heightened permissions only for the exact task it needs to do, and then those permissions automatically vanish right after the task is complete. It's like a key that evaporates after one use, drastically reducing risk. And similarly, you have time-bound access grants. These enforce temporal restrictions on access rights, making sure permissions are automatically revoked after a specified period. It adds another layer of automated control. Expanding on that dynamic idea, risk-based access policies are becoming crucial. These systems adjust access controls based on real-time risk assessment. They incorporate factors like time of access, the source location, the current state of the system, things like that. This allows security controls to adapt dynamically based on the current threat levels. So for instance, if an account tries to access a sensitive system from an unusual location, the security might automatically tighten up, perhaps requiring an extra layer of authentication, even from a non-human identity.
Okay, and what about preventing potential internal abuse? Or even just accidental misconfigurations? I mean, even digital workers can be exploited or misconfigured to do damage, right?
Absolutely. For that, we apply separation of duties. This is a classic security principle, just adapted for the automated world. It enforces the segregation of critical functions across different service accounts to prevent potential abuse or error. It means identifying conflicting permissions, like can one account both create and approve something sensitive, and ensuring proper distribution of responsibilities. So no single service account should be able to perform a complete high-risk operation on its own. For example, the account that creates a database probably shouldn't also be the account that can delete it. It's a really crucial internal control.
Okay, shifting gears a bit to what might seem basic, but is obviously foundational for security, password requirements. The guide outlines some very specific details here. It's not just make it strong, right? What's the thinking behind that minimum 12-character length, for example? Why 12?
Precisely. That 12-character minimum isn't arbitrary at all. It's generally considered the point where it becomes computationally absurd, even for very fast computers, to brute force guess the password. Just trying every combination. It's designed specifically to resist those direct, rapid attempts at cracking it, and it's automatically enforced during creation or change.
And it's not just length, is it? What other requirements are in place to make these passwords truly robust?
Well, special character inclusion is typically mandated. That means requiring non-alphanumeric characters like exclamation points, hash symbols, percent signs, things like that. That's like adding an entirely new massive alphabet to the possible combinations, which exponentially increases the difficulty for attackers. We also enforce mixed case requirements using both uppercase and lowercase letters, which similarly expands the character set and the overall complexity. It just makes guessing much, much harder.
So it's not just about length, but also about the diversity of characters within the password. And I imagine these passwords aren't just set once and forgotten about.
Oh, absolutely not. No, regular rotation schedules are vital. This means automating password rotation based on security policies, usually somewhere between every 30 to 90 days. The system automatically handles the change, which is key, so there's no human forgetfulness involved. And finally, to prevent recycling old, potentially compromised passwords, history restrictions are implemented. This typically means the system maintains a history of, say, the last 12 or even 24 previous passwords for that account. It makes it much harder for attackers to guess by trying common variations or old passwords.
It's clear that sticking to these detailed requirements builds a much stronger defense. You're not just hoping for strong passwords, you're automating and enforcing them to take human error out of the equation. But I can already hear some listeners thinking, okay, 12 characters, special characters, mixed case, and constant rotation. That sounds like a management nightmare. Is there a point where the security gain starts to diminish relative to the operational burden? Or are these truly non-negotiable for service accounts?
That's a really great question, and it highlights that constant trade-off you always have in security. For human users, yeah, there's definitely a balance point where overcomplicating passwords leads to bad habits, like writing them down or reusing them everywhere. But for service accounts, which are managed by systems and not people, these stringent requirements are frankly non-negotiable. The operational burden you mentioned, it's handled by automation. The system generates, rotates, and manages these complex passwords, so there's no human nightmare component involved. The security gain here is paramount because a compromised service account can have an absolutely catastrophic impact on an organization, often far exceeding that of a single human account breach. So for these accounts, the benefit vastly outweighs the automated management overhead.
That makes perfect sense. The human factor is removed, so the rules can be much stricter. Okay. Now, let's explore a more advanced concept mentioned in the guide, the integration of biometrics for service accounts. This sounds incredibly cutting edge, but also maybe a bit counterintuitive. How does this enhance security for non-human identities? I mean, it's not like a server has a fingerprint, right?
Right, exactly. A server doesn't have a literal fingerprint. But it's about taking the principles of robust multi-factor authentication and applying them where it's feasible and beneficial to machine identities. For service accounts, this often translates to multi-factor authentication that can combine, for example, a cryptographically signed hardware identity, which is essentially the machine's unique fingerprint with other factors, maybe a certificate or a time-based token. And this often includes a risk-based assessment to determine when these additional, often hardware-backed factors are truly required. It's not necessarily a blanket application everywhere.
Okay, so it's less about a literal fingerprint scan on a machine and more about a deep cryptographic verification of the machine's unique identity. That makes more sense. What are the practicalities then? And the crucial considerations for implementing something like this? It sounds incredibly complex to manage.
It is complex, no doubt. And biometric data security, or maybe more accurately in this context, the security of these unique machine identities or keys is paramount. It means implementing secure storage and processing of these digital templates or cryptographic keys and ensuring compliance with privacy regulations and industry standards, which are constantly evolving. You also absolutely need robust fallback procedures. You have to establish alternative authentication methods for when this advanced machine authentication fails or is unavailable for some reason. Clear procedures for temporary access and system recovery are essential. Additionally, privacy considerations are key, even for machines in a sense. You need to address concerns related to any unique identifier collection and storage. This includes principles like data minimization, collecting only what is absolutely necessary, and purpose limitation, meaning that identifier can only be used for the exact security purpose it was collected for. And finally, of course, compliance requirements. You have to ensure that any advanced authentication implementation meets all relevant regulatory requirements and industry standards for data protection and privacy. It's a big undertaking.
What truly stands out to you about this blend of, well, cutting-edge technology and these foundational security principles, especially when applying them to something as abstract as a non-human identity? It feels like a pretty significant conceptual leap for cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think what stands out most is the profound level of trust we inherently place in automation today, and therefore the equally profound need for highly sophisticated and adaptable security mechanisms to protect that trust. It's really a testament to how far we've come in trying to secure the digital fabric of our world, moving beyond simple username password credentials to truly verifying the identity and even the intent of these complex automated interactions. It also reflects a growing recognition, I think, that machine identities are just as critical, maybe even more critical in some cases, as targets for attackers than human ones are.
So we've covered a huge amount today, really, from the very definition of these silent digital workers, these non-human identities, to the really intricate details of securing them. It's become crystal clear that comprehensive service account security and management isn't just some IT checklist item. It's absolutely essential for any modern IT environment to function safely. Combining all these practices we discussed, from meticulous lifecycle management and robust access control, all the way to stringent password requirements, and even looking forward to things like biometric or cryptographic machine identity integration, it really forms a formidable, layered defense.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's just so clear that understanding these detailed controls isn't just about ticking a compliance box or passing an audit. It's absolutely vital for protecting the automated backbone of pretty much any modern organization. And this, I think, raises an important question for all of us about truly proactive security, not just reactive.
Indeed, it does. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Consider how these advanced security measures, many originally designed for these non-human identities and automated systems, might influence or even start to redefine how we approach security for human access in the future. What new challenges and maybe what new solutions might emerge as automation becomes even more ubiquitous, woven into every aspect of our digital lives, blurring those lines between human and machine interaction. Something to think about until our next deep dive.